We have the pleasure and honor to hear from the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Hungary, Mr. Péter Szijjártó, who I think, based upon his compelling speech in Tokyo 2 weeks ago, is going to provide us a sense of Hungary's, let's say a Hungary first policy. I come from a country where we had America's first policy. So Hungary's efforts to make sure it has the energy supplies it needs as a key member of the European Union. Mr. Minister.
Good morning to all of you. Thank you so much, Matthew. Thank you, Parvis, for the invitation. Some short remarks from my side. Unfortunately, it's not an exaggeration anymore that we are living in the age of dangers and crises, and the world has been full of tremendous conflicts, and these conflicts are bringing forward the risk of the world being divided into blocks again. And we unfortunately have a historic experience how to live between or almost between blocks. And this is something that we don't want to see be returning. And we also see that this chance of the world being divided into blocks again brings forward a tremendous risk of the safe supply of energy, globally speaking. Unfortunately, we see the issue of safety of energy supply being dragged into these international political conflicts. We see ideological debates overburdening the issue of energy supply. So therefore, our number one goal, if we speak about experts and professionals, and it's you, not me, I think the number one goal should be to get rid of the ideological approach, to get rid of the political debates when it comes to energy supply. And let's come back to common sense, and let's make sure that energy supply is being considered as an issue of physical and mathematical nature, and not philosophical and ideological one. We do believe that it's a fair and well-based policy of Hungary that we reject all kind of ideological approach when it comes to guaranteeing the safe supply of energy of Hungary. We reject any kind of ideological approach. We reject any kind of interference. And we do believe that guaranteeing the safe supply of our country is a matter of sovereignty. But when it comes to the question how we can ensure safe and sustainable supply of energy globally under the current challenging security circumstances, I think there are three preconditions. First, we have to get rid of the continued negative discrimination against nuclear energy. Second, we have to get rid of this very aggressive pressure to phase out natural gas from our national energy mixes. And third, that we have to get rid of all those artificial measures which restrict the hurdle-less, fair and free international energy cooperation. Just three very short remarks on these three issues. First, when it comes to discrimination against nuclear energy, we have to understand that based on the fact that transportation is now being transformed to electric basis, based on the fact that the demand for heating and cooling systems has been increasing, and based on the fact that the industrial output globally is increasing, we will need twice as much electricity within 6 years than currently. And when we raise the question how we can ensure a big volume of electricity in a reliable, in a sustainable, in an environmentally friendly, safe and cheap way, the only answer is nuclear. We need nuclear in order to make sure that we can supply the ever-increasing global demand of electricity in the future. We in Europe are fighting for this because there's a big ideological pressure on nuclear, led by Germany. Thanks God, now there's a nuclear coalition led by France, which is a very important professional argument in this regard. Therefore, we hope that we can be successful in the future to maintain the sustainable classification of nuclear in the future. By the way, we are building two new nuclear reactors. When we connect them to the grid, we will be able to decrease our emission by 17 million tons of CO2 annually. That's why I always laugh at the arguments of the Greens against nuclear, because my question is, what can be more green than the nuclear investment of ours? Second point, the very aggressive pressure is out there to phase out gas from our national energy mixes. We find it artificial, we find it absolutely not realistic, we find it ideological, and we find it as a very aggressive push against our competitiveness, which can end up in a rapidly growing energy prices. Therefore, instead of pushing us to get rid of gas, what we should do is to develop infrastructure. Develop infrastructure, develop the delivery routes in order to make it possible that we diversify our energy sources, our gas sources. There's a lot of pressure on us in Europe to diversify. The problem is that we have different definitions of diversification. Our definition of diversification is that we have more sources. And we don't agree with the definition, which is like replacement of already existing sources with others. No, diversification means more sources. That's why we asked the European Union to increase the capacity of the pipeline network in Southeast Europe to enable us to buy more gas from Azerbaijan, from Qatar, from Turkey, with whom we have or have contracts or contracts are under preparation. But without increasing the capacity of this pipeline network in Southeast Europe, we will not be able to diversify. And you know, we hear the counter-argument, saying that gas is not going to be part of the national energy mixes in 15 years. Now we don't agree with that. Who knows what's going to happen next year? The question is not who knows what's going to happen in 15 years. And even if it was right that gas is not going to be part of the energy mix in 15 years, I still would like to draw the attention to the fact that there are still 14 winters to go. So therefore, the expression unnecessary infrastructure should not exist in our vocabularies. And my last point, the third, on the restriction of the international energy cooperations. So you see that in Europe, because of the war in Ukraine, we have been faced with a tremendous pressure to cut our energy relations with Russia. You know, the thing is that whenever you restrict or whenever you limit international energy cooperation, it can easily end up in disturbances of supply or in price increase. And we Europeans have experienced it in 2022 big time. Our national energy bill of imports has increased from 7 billion euros to 17 billion euros. 10 billion euros extra expenditure, which we don't want to see returning in Hungary. Therefore, we reject any kind of sanctions on energy, and we found it outrageous that there are attempts now in Europe to prepare possible customs and tariffs being put on energy sources to make it more expensive for certain countries to ensure the safe supply of theirs. We find this is outrageous and this is absolutely unacceptable for us. When we do buy energy sources, we don't make these decisions on political basis. Buying energy from this or that country is not a political statement for us. It's a matter of national sovereignty and rationality. Where we can get the energy sources cheaper and more reliable, we buy it from there. And lastly, I'd like to say, Matthew, that there's still a hope. There's still a hope that common sense will come back. Because I'm personally responsible for the construction of our new nuclear power plant, where the head constructor, the main constructor, is Rosatom from Russia. But if you go to the site now, you will see American, German, and French subcontractors working very happily for Rosatom and getting tens of millions of euros from them. So that shows to me that even if politicians are making sometimes crazy statements, on the level of the everyday life, on the level of professional energy, there's still a hope for common sense and international cooperation, which will allow us at least to speak about the hope of safe and sustainable supply of global energy in the future. Thank you so much for the kind invitation, and thank you so much for the kind attention.